In 1744, a boy was born in a ghetto so small and so controlled that the gates locked every night at sundown. He couldn't own land. He couldn't live outside a designated street. He couldn't practice most professions. He paid special taxes simply for existing. The city of Frankfurt had decided what his life would look like before he drew his first breath. His name was Mayer Amschel Rothschild. Within 3 generations, his family would be financing wars between the largest empires on earth. They would hold more wealth than most nations. They would become the most powerful banking dynasty in human history, and it started in a locked street with a handful of old coins. Mayer Amschel didn't start in banking, he started in coins. Old coins, rare coins, coins that collectors and wealthy noblemen would pay serious money to own. He had an eye for value that went beyond the face of the metal. He understood that things were worth not what they were, but what someone with money was willing to pay for them. That insight, simple as it sounds, became the foundation of everything. His business caught the attention of Wilhelm I of Hesse-Kassel. Wilhelm was one of the wealthiest princes in Europe. His fortune came partly from a deeply uncomfortable source, renting out his own soldiers to foreign governments to fight their wars. He had enormous amounts of cash that needed to be managed, invested, and moved discreetly. Mayer Amschel became his banker. This was the first piece, a connection to real power, real money, real influence. And Mayer Amschel understood something most people in his position would have missed entirely. A relationship with one powerful man was useful, but a network of relationships with powerful men across multiple countries was something else entirely, something the world had never seen before. He had 5 sons. This was the move that changed everything. Most successful merchants kept their operation in one city, passed the business to one heir, and built something local, something manageable, something small. Mayer Amschel sent his sons in 5 different directions. Amschel stayed in Frankfurt. Salomon went to Vienna. Nathan went to London. Carl went to Naples. James went to Paris. 5 cities, 5 of the most important financial centers in Europe. 5 brothers operating simultaneously, sharing information, sharing capital, sharing intelligence, connected by a private courier network that moved faster than any government communication system of the era. Think about what that meant in the early 1800s. Information was power, and information moved slowly. A government in Vienna didn't know what a government in Paris had decided until days later. Merchants in London didn't know what markets in Frankfurt were doing until the news traveled by horse and road. The Rothschilds knew everything first. That wasn't luck, that was architecture, a deliberately built system designed to give one family an information advantage over every competitor, every government, and every other banking house in Europe simultaneously. Nathan in London became the most important of the 5. London was becoming the financial center of the world, and Nathan had a mind that could read a market the way a general reads a battlefield. Then came Waterloo, June 1815. Napoleon Bonaparte and the Duke of Wellington on opposite sides of a Belgian field. The outcome of that battle would determine the future of Europe. Markets across the continent were paralyzed with uncertainty. A Napoleon victory meant one financial reality. A Wellington victory meant another entirely. Nobody knew which way it would go, except that the stakes were so high that the first person with reliable information stood to profit enormously. Nathan Rothschild had agents positioned near the battlefield. While governments waited and markets held their breath, Nathan received word of Wellington's victory before the British government received its own official dispatch. He had hours, perhaps more. What happened next became one of the most debated stories in financial history. The version most widely told says Nathan appeared at the London Stock Exchange the following morning. He began selling British government bonds, subtly at first, then more visibly. Other traders watched him. Nathan Rothschild was selling, which meant Nathan Rothschild knew something. The market followed. Bonds dropped. Panic began to spread through the exchange. And then at the bottom, Nathan bought everything at prices that reflected a Napoleon victory in a world where Wellington had already won. By the time official news of the British victory reached London, the Rothschilds had consolidated a position so large it made their previous wealth look like a starting point. Whether every detail of that story is precisely accurate has been argued by historians for 2 centuries. What is not disputed is the outcome. After Waterloo, the Rothschild family's position in European finance was not merely strong, it was structurally dominant. Governments needed money. This was the reality of the 19th century that most people don't fully appreciate. Wars were expensive. expensive, infrastructure was expensive, running an empire was expensive, and governments, even powerful ones, regularly ran out of cash. When that happened, they needed someone to lend it to them, someone with enough capital to issue bonds, someone with enough connections to sell those bonds to investors across multiple countries simultaneously. There was only one network that could do that. The Rothschilds financed the British war effort against Napoleon. They financed Austria. They financed Prussia. They financed the indemnity France paid after losing the war. They managed government debt across the continent with a coordination that no single national bank could match, because no single national bank had offices in 5 countries operating as a unified family enterprise. When a government needed money, it didn't have many options. And the option it most often chose wore the same name in London, Paris, Vienna, Frankfurt, and Naples. The family kept it that way deliberately. Marriages were arranged within the family for decades, cousins marrying cousins to keep wealth, loyalty, and control inside the name. Communication happened in a private code. Business decisions were made in letters that used language designed to confuse anyone who intercepted them. The 5 arrows, one for each son, bound together became the family symbol. The meaning was clear to anyone who understood it. 1 arrow breaks easily, 5 bound together do not. This wasn't just a business philosophy, it was a survival strategy built by a man who had grown up behind locked gates and understood at the deepest level what happened to wealth that didn't protect itself. By the middle of the 19th century, the Rothschild family had financed the Suez Canal. They had lent money to the British government to purchase its controlling stake in it. They had helped fund the unification of Italy. Their London bank remained one of the most influential financial institutions in the world for over 150 years. They didn't take over world banking through force. They didn't take over through corruption. They built something nobody else had thought to build: a unified family network operating simultaneously across the most important cities on earth, moving faster than governments, knowing more than markets, and making themselves indispensable to the very powers that once locked their great-grandfather behind a gate every night at sundown. The gate is gone. The name is still there,